Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm the Kawasaki Cruisader, and today I'm going to walk you through the process of how to wire in the headlights we put together in the last video. If you haven't seen it already, I'll put a link in the description below. Everyone, please bear in mind that if you're doing this yourself, it can get a little bit confusing. So if you have a hardware store close by, you can always go pick up a colored electrical tape set that matches the wires, or you can just make some labels of some sort. If you don't have time and you don't have patience for something like this, you should definitely seek assistance from a professional. Also, even though I didn't, you should absolutely disconnect your battery before you start cutting things just to be safe. That being said, let's get into this so that you can safely get your lights wired in as well.
Everyone, I'm back yet again on another day. Today we're going to wire in the LED headlights that we installed. And these are no normal LED headlights. So of course it's not just going to be plug and play. So I've got a negative and a positive right here. That's for the halo ring that goes around the light. This green wire is actually the ground wire. This brown wire is the positive for the red demon eye. Red is for a strobe feature that the headlights offer. Blue is high beam and white is low beam. And I've got that times 2. And I've got a few little tricks up my sleeve for getting it done. I got a little diagram wrote out for what wire is going to go where.
The brown wires go to the positive wires for the daytime running lights in the corner of your headlights. The blue wires go to the positive wire for the high beam light. This ensures that both headlights come on when the high beams are initiated. Your green wires are going to be ran to either the high beam or low beam ground wire depending on which side of the bike you are working on. Your white wires are going to be ran to your low beam positive, also to ensure that they both come on when your bike is started. We will add a toggle switch later to turn them off, leaving the halo and demon eyes illuminated. Your thick red wires will be ran to your lap timer power button or another power source of your choice. This was just close by to where I added the button that activates the strobe feature. The thin red wire will also be ran to the daytime running light positives in the corners. The thin black wire will go to the negative for the daytime running lights. This leaves the halo and demon eyes on all the time when the key is on. However, the demon eyes are drowned out by the high beam and low beam lights.
Yeah, I'll show you what that looks like as I go through it. I'm going to use just a little cheap soldering iron that I got at Harbor Freight, and I got some electrical solder. I'm going to have some heat shrink to go around that. I've got a heat gun I'm going to use. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I did was remove these 2 Allen head screws and take that little fairing piece out on each side to make some room. Then I went ahead and took 2 big pieces of heat shrink and slipped it over. There's one tucked inside this other one, so this is actually 2 pieces. Anyhow, then I put 1 piece over each individual wire. That way whenever I solder these to their connectors, I can slide the wires down, heat shrink over it, pull 1 piece up, heat shrink over it, and then heat shrink the 2 together just to make it really clean. I don't want wires all over the place. I'll do the same to these little wires as well. And then I did the same thing over here. I took my heat shrink pieces and put it all up. This is kind of gives you a better idea of what's going to happen whenever I put it all together.
This is one of the corner running lights that we will be tapping into. After you remove the heat shrink, you will see that the negative wire is black and yellow and the positive is brown and white. Using wire cutters, splice in the thin black and red wires for the halos, ensuring that they will come on when the key is turned on. I removed the clip for the halo so that I could easily solder it to the OEM plug for the running light and heat shrink over it to keep the connection tight and clean. Here's a nice look at the finished product. Side note, soldering is a lot harder than I expected. I figured I should test my work as I go. Yep, it worked. Unfortunately, while pioneering this install, I made a mistake and forgot to wire in the brown wire with the thin red wire so that it would come on as a running light as well. So I ended up having to improvise by wiring it in a little bit further down the line, and although this worked, it was an unnecessary step that I had to take to fix my mistake. Here's where we wired in the halo, and further down here is where I spliced in the wire for my demon eye.
Okay, so now on the 2008 to 2010 ZX10R, if you don't have everything hooked up, like light bulb wise, it can be kind of confusing if you don't remember what plug is what. So I had to plug my light bulbs back in to figure out, because I was confused and I thought that this was my high beam and I thought this was low beam. That is not correct. This is low beam. This is high beam. So this is what we want to work with right now. So I'm going to cut off this completely. I'm just going to snip it right there. And then I'm going to take the positive and run it to the high beam positive. The negative I'm going to run to the ground. So that's what I'm going to do with those two wires. I'm going to get started right now. Alright, so I got a couple of them heat shrink down, the ones that I've already done. I haven't done strobe and I haven't done low beam yet. Those are the last two to run on this side. But I wanted to show you when the brights get going. I don't know. They work. I'm excited about that. Also, I forgot to mention, since I hooked up the wire for the halo and for the demon, one side works very well just for normal running. Alright, so for whatever reason, the wiring harness, I didn't put it back exactly how it goes, I guess, because I can't get the low beam to come over here any closer, nor can I get the amber connector to come over any closer. They're just stuck right there between my ram air and my headlights. So I'm gonna have to do something I'm not exactly fond of, but it'll be fine. I'm going to extend it with some wire. It's a little bit higher gauge than what I need, but I'll make it work. It'll be fine. All right, so I can still see a little bit of my blue wire showing. Blue is positive, the black and yellow was negative. So I'm about to cover that with another piece of heat shrink, and I have an awful memory. I don't want to fry anything, so what I did was I cut one of the wires shorter than the other, since they're the same color and I don't have two colors of wire. So I cut one shorter than the other. Now I'm going to go ahead and slide my heat shrink up over these two pieces. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. Anyhow, I'm going to slide it up all the way to here and heat it again so it's good and sturdy. Those have no chance of getting wet or coming undone. Alright, so I made a little bit of progress since I last had the camera on. So I, right here, have extended the positive and negative for the amber corner light for this side because the wire wasn't long enough, so I've extended that. So really, I think all I have left now is I have this low beam wire for this light that I have to tap into the low beam connection, and the strobe I still need to run. And then on this side it's the opposite. I've got the strobe light that I need to run, and then this one is the blue high beam that I have to connect. So once I've done that, those last four wires, all I'm going to do is, I mean, you can't leave a big wiry mess like that. That's not going to happen. I'm going to secure the converter boxes somewhere. Probably electrical tape up all the connections that are, open-ended like that, because I still want to be able to, disconnect these lights if I ever need to change them or take the bike apart. So that's all I've really got left. I'm going to keep going, and I'll catch up with you guys shortly. I went ahead and plugged everything in for the halos and the demon eye. I figured might as well show you guys progress as we go. So as soon as you turn on the key, that's what the bike's going to look like. I think that's amazing. I'm very happy with the outcome so far. Something that I forgot to mention when I had the camera on a minute ago. As soon as you turn on the key, you've got the halos and the demon eyes. As soon as you start the bike, your normal headlight kicks on, but the halo and the demon eye stays on as well. So if you kick on the brights, obviously you can't see those demon eyes. The halo's still going, but you can't see the demon eye anymore. So what we'll have to do, because I want both demon eyes showing, and then I want both headlights to turn on, and I want both headlights to turn off, of course, is I'm going to have to run either a ground cut for the high beam, low beam, with a toggle switch, and that'll be my option, or leave it how it is. So I'm going to run the toggle switch, or the ground cut, for the high beam, low beam. I think it's going to be great. Either way, I'm super pumped. So the last thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the strobe and see if I can make that work with either the lap timer button or the horn button. If the lap timer button works, that's going to be my first option, because I don't really use the lap timer, but I don't want the strobe just to be on non-stop either, and I want to be able to control it by the press of a button, just holding it down and it'll strobe, and then letting it off and it stops strobing. Alright, so what I've done now is I clipped the wire that I had ran to my low beam on the left side, and I connected it to the low beam on the right side, and I extended the wire through the crimp quite a bit so that I can take the other end that I cut, reconnect it, and I'll be soldering and heat shrinking that, of course. But I just wanted to show you, that's how I'm tapping into the low beam on this side. And now after I finish this, I'm going to do the same thing to the high beam on the other side. Now that I've got the positive wire for both of the low beam lights ran, I'm going to go ahead and show you how it works. As soon as you turn on the key, just like earlier, we've got our halos. But as soon as you start the bike, both low beams kick on. And if I turn on high beams, just one kicks on, because I have not yet tapped into my other high beam. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I went ahead and added a wire to the blue, which is the high beam, and I'm going to run this through back to the other side. Pull it through over here, and I'm going to tap into the positive side from the high beam. Okay guys, so I made a mistake and I forgot to get a ground cut switch for the low beams. I need to do that so that I can drive around with just the halos going, because right now, as soon as I turn the key on, I've got halos and demon eye, but as soon as I start the bike, I have my low beams, and of course high beams work, but I want to drive around with just the halos and the demon eyes. So to do that, I have to run a ground cut to the positive for the low beams. I also need to run a toggle switch for the strobe light. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to be able to tap into my lap timer button, but that actually just has a constant power going to it. It's not a ground cut, unfortunately, like I need. I also tried running it to the horn button. But just the same, it has a positive and a negative on this one, but I only have a positive wire for the strobe, so I have to have a ground cut for that also to be able to use it, which I do want to use it. I have to go get those two switches, and I need to clean up this nasty mess of wire. Okay everybody, welcome back. It's yet again another new day, and today my goal is to completely finish wiring those lights.
This is the interrupter button I bought and ended up using for the strobe light, which worked perfectly. Essentially, when the button is pressed, it completes the circuit and sends power to the strobe wires, and when you let go, it stops. This is an accessory toggle switch that I use to turn my low beams off and on. There are 3 prongs on it labeled positive, accessory, and negative. I've ran 2 wires to the center accessory prong on the switch, and their 2 ends to the red strobe wires. At this point, I hadn't realized that the push button was going to be better for the strobe and the switch for the low beams.
So I plan to mount the switch in this area near my other thumb switch for my pit lane speed limiter. So I've kind of just sat the plug there. I've got the power wires ran, so now what I've got to do is I've got to take some pieces of wire, put these ends on them, and connect one to a power source, and then I'll be done with the strobe lights. And then I need to cut into the ground for the low beam lights.
This button is now connected on one prong to the power wire for the lap timer button, which is brown and white. The other prong is connected to the thick red strobe wires. When the button is pressed, it completes the circuit and the lights begin to flash.
And I've actually already tapped into the power over here for the lap timer button. So it's not going to affect the lap timer button, but I'm going to plug it in to make sure, of course. Okay, so don't make fun of me. This is the first time I've done this before, but now you can make fun of me, I don't care. Anyhow, I switched out the plug and I ran one wire from the accessory and one where I tapped into power, and this works for strobe. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this button for strobe. I actually really like the button anyway. It's perfect for what I want it for. I'll show you how it works. When you first turn the bike on, you can see it's got the halos with the demon eye. When you start the bike, switches to headlights, and when I press the button, you get the strobe. So while I'm just sitting here, it'll still do the strobe, but the last thing I need to do now is still run the cutout for the high beams. So happy mistake, since I'm not going to end up using the ground that I ran for this switch originally for the strobe, I'm actually going to still use this for the cut for the high beams. So, or not for the high beams, for the low beams, my mistake. So, in all my infinite wisdom, I made the mistake of running this ground to the horns ground, and I didn't need it for the switch for the strobe. Strobe works, as you see. So now I'm going to use this as the cut for the power to the headlights in general. Basically what I'm going to do is cut the power to low beam by running low beam to accessory and then the power to here. Alright, so if you remember from earlier, the white wire is power for the low beams. Now, right now, this is my original wiring harness where this runs. That's straight power running to the low beams. And right now it's running to both of these wires, which run both to the white wires for the lights, which is low beams. I'm going to have to snip these, and I'm going to have to run the wires that run from the white wires on the lights to the middle for accessory. And then I'm going to have to take the power that's coming from the wiring harness and run it to the power side. Once I do that, I should be able to flip this off and on to interrupt power going to the headlights. Alright guys, other than me cleaning it up, this job is complete. The install is done, but I want to make one more final note to anybody following along. I did not end up using the extra ground. So I ran a ground wire into my horn ground for no reason. Whenever I have that plugged in, the system does not work correctly. But as of now, when I start the bike up, I can turn my brights on, turn my brights off, and I can turn my headlights on and turn my headlights off. So as a full demonstration, here we go. When I first turn on the key, you have halos with demon eyes. When you start the bike, you have the option to turn your headlights off or turn them on so that you have your halos. At any point in time, you can hit your button to make your strobes go off. You still have a low beam, you still have a high beam. High beam, you can still use your strobe lights, and nothing's been affected with the horn. I do still have to work up a little bit better mount so that this isn't just sitting there. I still need to tape the wires together and clean up the spaghetti and zip tie it all out of the way. That was a lot of work. I hope that you guys gained some knowledge on how to do this to your own bike so that you don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the super cool kits that they offer online. Well guys, as you can see, I had to finish the job, so I went ahead and I mounted my switch for the headlights over here. Down is off, up is on, and I left the button where it was for the strobe, right between my pit lane speed limiter switch and my left controls. Everything works. I still need a couple of zip ties just to put things out of the way, just to make it a little cleaner for myself. I also would like to put a couple pieces of 3M Velcro on the inverter boxes and put them where they go. But everything's finished, so thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video. It was a pain to make, so please Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share. I really worked hard on this video, guys, and I hope that it shows. If you have any questions about how to install these on your own bike, or would like my assistance, or would just like to commission me to do it, feel free to reach out to me just by commenting below, and I'll do everything I can to help you out, guys. You've been amazing. I'm at 76 subscribers right now, and I wanted to say how thankful I am for each and every one of you. I'm almost to 100 subscribers, which was my goal for the year. And once I reach that, I think I am actually going to do a small giveaway once I hit 100 subscribers. So tell your friends to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll do everything I can to make better content for you in the future and to do better giveaways also, because I don't even know what it's going to be yet, but I'll make sure it's as cool as it can be. Thank you guys again. I just wanted to say that. So do me a favor, if you could, please ride safe and keep the shiny side up.